afternoon. I am Andy Nelson. I'm the director of the Construction Engineering Research Laboratory in Champaign, Illinois, part of the Engineer Research and Development Center and the Army Corps of Engineers. This afternoon, I will be talking about our research supporting military installations and infrastructure. In this presentation, I'll discuss a bit about our background drivers, national priorities, supporting infrastructure and installations. I'll talk about some of our Army priorities in the Army installation strategy and the USACE R&D top 10 priorities, and then discuss how our research and development program currently aligns with those priorities and with those directions from our leadership, and give some examples of some projects that we have ongoing at installations and ongoing in the laboratories across the Engineer R&D Center. So to start, I'll talk a little bit about the national infrastructure priorities that we have right now, given to us by both the previous administration and the current administration. There's a handful of executive orders that you can see on the left-hand side, which really guide where we need to be going in our resilient energy future, where we need to be going in supporting cybersecurity for installations and control systems, in clean energy in the future, and modernizing our energy grid. Additionally, the interim national security strategic guidance very clearly calls out this need to double down on science and technology investments. This has been a conversation that is ongoing at levels of leadership in the Corps of Engineers throughout ERDC of where and how do we need to make investments in science, technology, research, and development to advance our national security, to advance our installations capability, and ultimately to help the Army train, fight, and win the nation's wars, which is really fundamentally what we do here, and to provide the quality of life and the quality of services that are needed for soldiers and families on our installations and in the infrastructure that they interact with. So these four topics here on the right-hand side with resilient energy, cybersecurity, clean energy, and modernizing our energy grid drive a lot of our thinking around current R&D priorities supporting installations. They are not holistic, though, but they are really what we're seeing from the current administration driving our thinking. As many of you likely know, the Army Installation Strategy, or the AIS as we refer to it, was signed toward the end of 2020 and is a whole of Army strategy of how Army installations operate within the multi-domain environment. So this strategy recognizes that the installations in the strategic support area in the continental United States, as well as in Alaska and Hawaii, that they are part of the fight nowadays. We have new threats. We have cyber threats, information warfare. We have threats from small unmanned aerial systems, physical threats, insider threats. And then we have climate change, which covers really across all of this. The impact of extreme weather events, of desertification of training lands and ranges, and overall the kinds of impacts that perhaps are still unknown to our installations and to our Army as we continue to move forward. And then, you know, we see right now and are living in the middle of, and the reason that this event is being conducted virtually is this concern about pandemics. Additionally, we have new technologies being inculcated into our installations. Data and information is everywhere. We have connected systems across our installations, from building automation systems, control systems, utility metering systems, down to the vehicles that we drive and the access control points, entry points on installations, and everything in between, where we are drowning in information, drowning in data, but really struggling sometimes to find information and be able to make decisions. So this Army installation strategy recognizes this, and it recognizes the Army function within multi-domain operations and establishes these four lines of effort that you can see in the bottom left corner: to take care of people, to strengthen readiness and resilience, to modernize and innovate, and to promote stewardship. And ultimately, the end state of this strategy is to deliver modern, resilient, and sustainable installations. The goal is to enhance our readiness to support our soldiers, support our civilians, support our families, and to ultimately enable the Army to fight and win the nation's wars. So aligned with this installation strategy and infrastructure across the board, the Corps of Engineers has been undertaking an effort over the past 12 months or so to develop the first ever USACE Top 10 Research and Development Priorities. And these priorities, as you can see there, we're talking about these as the greatest challenges of today and tomorrow, requiring integrated engineering solutions. This is true for all of these top 10 priorities, and it's especially true when we talk about our installations and the infrastructure on our installations. These problems do not stand alone. The challenges do not stand alone. We have to work with innovative solutions. We have to work in transdisciplinary and cross-disciplinary teams to consider problems and consider the interconnected nature of the way that our installations operate and the way that that the Army and installations in the Army interact with the local communities, as well as are impacted and affected by the local environment and our impact on the environment around us. So you can see these top 10 priorities here, and in just a moment I'll show how these align with the Army installation strategy, but also I would just highlight the little icons that are in here, and you'll see a bit later in this briefing where I've highlighted the work that we have ongoing and how that work is directly aligned with the USACE top 10 priorities, and then those are all nested within the Army installation strategy, which is ultimately guided by the higher level national security strategy and guidance that we receive. So all the work that we're doing here is up and down, nested through these strategies and through all of these priorities, and it's how we try to think about everything that we do. So talking about the USACE R&D top 10 priorities and the Army installation strategy, where do we see these aligning? So that first line of effort from the Army installation strategy framework to take care of people, well, that aligns with our need to have resilient communities and enable smart and resilient installations, to provide adaptive facilities, to modernize our infrastructure, to modernize our facilities, and to ultimately make our installations places that will attract, retain, and enable soldiers, families, and civilians. We have challenges throughout our installation community in delivering modern infrastructure services. We recognize that the soldier of today and of the future often may come out of a city that is highly connected, smartphone in the pocket, all the information kind of at the tip of a finger. And if we're not able to deliver some version of that on an installation, we risk Army readiness because we risk the ability to retain, to attract new people, whether they be soldiers or civilians, and also to take care of the families that live and work on our installations as well. To strengthen the readiness and resilience of our installations within the installation strategy framework, operationalizing installations, recognizing that installations are part of the fight now. The fence line and the continental United States is no longer a sanctuary as we perhaps once expected, with the challenges like cyber attacks and social engineering, things that can be conducted from anywhere in the world and impact us here at CONUS. So those R&D priorities to enable us to win future wars, to protect and defend the Arctic, that requires our ability to mobilize and to operationalize from installations, and to provide secure and reliable installation energy. We have seen time and again in recent years some of the challenges with the fragility of our energy network in the United States, and we certainly recognize that installations are not immune to those challenges that are seen by communities and by industry when we have major events that cause disruption to the energy and electric grid. Line of effort 3, modernize and innovate under the installation strategy, secure the information backbone. This gets into that improved cyber and physical security. We talk about having information and data everywhere and needing to be able to enable decision making, but we need to be able to enable decision making in a cyber secure and safe way so that our data and our information is protected. Because ultimately, if we're operationalizing our installations, we have to recognize that we may introduce vulnerabilities as we increase new data streams or tie up data sets and identify things that we were previously unable to identify. In that same vein, revolutionizing and accelerating decision making. That all comes from consolidating these data sources together, consolidating information together, and then applying things like AI, artificial intelligence and machine learning to help accelerate the decision-making process and to help identify decisions or to inform decisions and inform based on information that perhaps we otherwise didn't have when we were looking at it alone or standalone in a spreadsheet, for instance. And then the topic of this briefing here, modernizing the nation's infrastructure. When we talk about modernizing and innovating in the Army installation strategy framework, that really covers pretty much everything that we do within the Engineer R&D Center, within CERL, and within all of our laboratories and the R&D enterprise across the Corps of Engineers. It's about thinking differently, innovating, and doing things more effectively, more efficiently to provide modernized installations to support that Army that is being modernized through the cross-functional teams and through the efforts of Army Futures Command to deliver the Army of the future. And then finally, line of effort 4, to promote stewardship. This is where we talk about things like mitigating and adapting to climate change, a major ongoing effort in the installations community, in the Army, and the DoD, and across the whole of government. The recognition from the administration that we are tackling a climate crisis. The time to act was yesterday, and we are trying to act now. And it is very, we have a large challenge ahead of us, and being able to understand the current state of affairs within the Army and the department in terms of our carbon footprint, our ability to sequester carbon on ranges and lands, or blue sequestration. These are things that there's a lot of understanding that is still needed to be developed to be able to create that baseline, to be able to really deliver and measure what we're delivering so that we know what we are doing going forward. And then to ensure environmental sustainability and resilience, remediating contamination, things like PFAS, which is obviously a consistent topic of concern. But PFAS is the concern of now. What is the concern of the future? Continuing to think about emerging contaminants and military-specific contaminants in the environment. These are things that are very necessary because they can stop training. They can stop our ability to conduct the work that needs to be conducted on installations, and ultimately they can stop the ability to deliver the mission. So it's very important that we're able to deliver those sustainable training, working, and living environments so that we can deliver fundamentally a modern, resilient, and ready Army. So where do we do this within the R&D environment and supporting that installation strategy environment, installation strategy framework through research and development? This is work not done exclusively within CERL, not done exclusively within ERDC, but work conducted across the Corps of Engineers and in conjunction with our partners through things like cooperative research and development agreements, OTAs, EPAs, and all of these different kinds of agreements that you see along the side here. And really to highlight here, we do this work in close partnership with ERDC Works. We're looking at how do we leverage the power of that ERDC Works Partnership Intermediary Agreement to bring the best of the private sector, to bring the best of academia and the best thinking that perhaps we don't have, or we want to inculcate into the way that we do business within the Army. So again, across the top, you can see some different topics of interest here and things that we work on. And these are all active projects that we're working on in one way or another. Taking care of people, mold removal and mitigation, a big topic of interest right now. What kinds of technologies are out there and available? What you see here is a demonstration that was conducted of a commercial off-the-shelf technology for mold remediation in existing facilities. Information from that project documented in technical reports and communicated out through things like the Public Works Digest to the communities that need this kind of technology and need this kind of information. Safety and sustainability of range operations, safety of ranges, that is taking care of people 100%. We need to make sure that our soldiers can train in realistic and safe environments so that once they're trained, they are ready to go out and operate and do what they need to do. Talking about strengthening readiness and resilience. Our program, our direct program, what we refer to as our direct program, looking at blast and weapons effects and understanding what kind of new and emerging threats do we see from our adversaries that we need to protect against at our installations. We have new physical threats that exist through the development of new weapon systems that perhaps we didn't have to defend against in the homeland, and now we do. And so understanding what those threats are, understanding the performance of the physical structures and protection that we have, and then ensuring that we are making informed decisions for where we invest in increasing protection, and also informed decisions for how we plan for future threats and future changes. Things like thermal energy systems resilience. We had a program that has been looking at thermal energy resilience in Arctic climates. The recognition that perhaps we will have more operations that occur in Arctic climates, and trying to understand how do buildings perform, how do permanent and semi-permanent structures perform in these kinds of environments. This is a critical importance to the Army as articulated in the Arctic strategy, and the recognition that one of our top 10 R&D priorities for the Corps of Engineers is to protect and defend the Arctic. And we realize that with a changing climate, the increase of new shipping channels and new communication lanes through the Arctic regions, that we are going to have perhaps a larger and more important role in ensuring that we maintain that as a free and open space. Modernizing and innovating. As I said, pretty much everything that we do here really falls under modernizing and innovating. But some of the things that you'll see here really tend to fall in this area of data analytics, visualization, things like autonomous vehicles. I'll talk in a minute about a demonstration we have looking at autonomous vehicles. I'll talk in a minute about the virtual testbed for installation mission effectiveness. How do we take all of those data streams and break down the barriers and the silos that exist in enterprise level data all the way down to garrison level data, so that we can provide decision makers the information that they need to make informed decisions. But then ultimately to couple that with things like digital twins and augmented reality or virtual reality for building inspections, for planning of future facilities, for projecting and forecasting the costs associated with sustainment and restoration, or the costs associated with future MILCON. How do we couple all these things together in virtual environments and really leverage the capabilities that the ERDC has and that the Army has in data analytics and in high performance visualization, high performance computing, and virtual prototyping. And then finally, to promote stewardship. This gets into those things like recycling materials on installations, or the Engineering with Nature program, which I believe is briefed somewhere else in the Innovation Summit here this week. How do we use natural features? How do we use the environment to our advantage to help support the future environmental situation of an installation, to enhance resilience and to deliver a ready force? So we do this through, we have these pillars here of our data analytics, all the different kinds of data analytics that we apply across the board here, and then through partnerships with the folks like those who are speaking this week at the Innovation Summit, and across the Army installations community within ASAI-E&E, G9, G6, the recognition that when we talk about data analytics and data across all of this, there's a very high level of equity for G6, the Material Command, Installation Management Command, and then the Guard and Reserve Bureaus as well. And then we do this in partnership with our international partners, with our CONUS partners, through all number of different agreements to ultimately deliver those strategic outcomes of the Army installation strategy. So I'm going to talk now just very briefly about a couple of different projects that we have ongoing to give a little bit of a flavor of some of the R&D that we have. So this is a project called the Virtual Testbed for Installation Mission Effectiveness, which is ultimately driving at delivering an installation common operating picture, integrating big data, predictive analytics, ultimately prescriptive analytics, and artificial intelligence, pulling in data from all of these different sources, from garrison level sources, things like building automation systems or meters on buildings, all the way up to enterprise level data systems like RPLANs and GFEBs, where the Army uses these to make decisions for future funding in the POM. How do we incorporate all those, break down all the silos, and create the data architectures that are needed so that we can ultimately pull those into a data engine where we can do data fusion, integrate all those sources, and then ultimately provide predictive analytics and these outputs that you see on the right-hand side, visualizing what's happening at an installation, visualizing the capacity, our mission ability at an installation, the facility's quality, and then incorporating other things like installation access, traffic and routing on an installation. It gets at modernizing installations. It gets at increasing the quality of life and improving the quality of life on installations. So the Virtual Testbed for Installation Mission Effectiveness, or VTIME, is an ongoing program, and you'll see if you look through our broad agency announcement, you'll see some opportunities there within VTIME And certainly there will be more to come on this as we're really kind of in the crawl stage of a three-phase program to crawl, walk, run, and in the next few years really roll out capability that will help to garrison commanders all the way up to the enterprise level to make decisions. And one really great example of VTime here is where we're trying to use ERDC as a test bed. We are rolling out a first full implementation for an installation of VTime at the Waterways Experiment Station in Vicksburg. And the purpose of this is to show that this capability exists and this is delivering, it is delivering capability for ERDC, using the things that we develop ourselves to make our own decisions and conduct our own work. So that's happening right now at VTime, and it's a very exciting example of where we're able to transition this directly into the ERDC and the USACE mission. We have a program that's been ongoing for a couple of years now on automated vehicle pilots at installations, what we call smart base automated vehicle pilots. This started out with a 90-day shuttle demonstration, the Ollie that you can see in the top left corner there at Joint Base Meier-Henderson Hall back in 2019. And then transitioned into a broader program incorporating small UAS, small unmanned aerial vehicles at Butz Army Airfield to do foreign object and debris detection, incorporation with the 4G and LTE local network, as well as increasing some 5G components in the network in that local community to help with traffic management. And then to incorporate those systems with a Polaris GEM automated vehicle. This is a vehicle that can be purchased off a GSA with an applique kit to provide autonomy, driving around the installation through some high throughput areas to support the installation with an automated vehicle and support soldiers and families to be able to move from one location to another easily. And ultimately, all of these systems provide large amounts of data and information. And so this is all being fed into the ERDC Smart Base Data Hub, where we're collecting all this information together and then using that to be able to demonstrate and evaluate different components of things like the VTime system. So creating this rich data set so that we can start to develop those artificial intelligence machine learning algorithms that will enable the decision making based off of these kinds of pilots. Similarly, on the smart base topic, this is another series of pilots at Fort Carson, Benning, and Redstone that are incorporating weather data, security data, so physical access to the installation, and traffic data, so oncoming traffic at installation access points, to develop and deliver artificial intelligence-driven installation and regional decision dashboards. And really what this is to incorporate all of these things to use weather data, to use real-time security and installation access data to perhaps reroute traffic if an incident happens, to provide advanced prediction of when there may be gate backups in particular areas, and then can also support the overall installation security and understanding what's happening on an installation at any given time. So again, a capability that's being developed in conjunction with that Smart Base Data Hub, and providing information and a working data set from a garrison, from an installation, to be able to continue to develop and deliver new technologies. We have a focus on microgrids, but really when we talk about microgrids within ERDC and the work that we do supporting installations in microgrids, we break that down into these three topic areas. It's not delivering microgrids on installations, it's doing the research, development of standards and specifications to ensure that what we're doing delivers the best products available for the Army. So when we break that down, we break that into resilient electrical distribution systems, or what we call microgrids. How can we develop the heuristics? How can we develop the right kind of analytics for that system to be able to do self-analysis, understand when there is an issue internally or a problem internally of the system, and then adapt and continue to provide the energy that's required in an installation, as well as doing things like developing long-term capital lifecycle and sustainment planning tools for installations and for the Corps for microgrid planning, recognizing that many of these projects and programs come in piecemeal fashion, having that holistic vision of where we're going and what we're trying to deliver, and being able to be adaptable and flexible as parts and components come in over time that really requires tools, it requires capability that can give us the long-term vision with the current state and current status. We're doing work in power sensing. This is actually in conjunction with the Army Research Laboratory, some development of power sensing technologies to be able to, a power sensing module to analyze power quality, and really to using these and demonstrating a technology that was developed at the Army Research Laboratory to help improve condition-based maintenance of electric systems, and then ultimately to provide information into that system self-analysis bullet point under our resilient electrical distribution systems. How do we measure and analyze at the critical key points in a grid so that we can have the critical key decision-making occur at the right places in the process? And then ultimately, communication solutions. And really that comes down to developing open protocols and standards and developing reference architectures and then the guidance that's required so that we have the planning and the process in place so that we are delivering solutions that work within the Army constructs of how we operate these systems. And finally, I'll touch on our training and land management program. So up till now, I've talked a lot more about physical infrastructure in work that we do, but we also do a lot of work supporting installations and the ability to train on installations. So the problems that we address here are really heavily around things like encroachments that impact the Army's ability to train, threatened and endangered species, soil erosion, wildfires, all kinds of things that happen on installations, the impact of military noise on local communities that prevent our soldiers from being able to train in realistic environments. We believe and know that emerging weapon systems, new weapon systems coming online through the cross-functional teams and Army modernization priorities will increase demands on those current training environments. So there's a robust portfolio of work supporting land capacity assessment, suitability for training on different types of vehicles, helping to identify where to field new weapon systems, and then really to deliver realistic and live training across all of these. This requires a large amount of geospatial analytics. It is a very cross-disciplinary program that requires everybody from zoologists and wildlife biologists to statisticians, to the GIS folks who are enabling these in map-based environment in industry to go look at that. And if you think you have technologies or capabilities that could address some of the needs and challenges that we have, we'd love to see you submitting things through there and hopefully be able to work together. So with that, thank you, and I'll be on to take any questions that anyone might have. And I hope that everyone enjoys the remainder of the Innovation Summit.